Not very far. Ah. No, I got up to 14. That's the best far. I was thinking I would get further, but not much. So we're in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15 tonight, and it's uh, reading through scriptures and Proverbs. I don't know. I don't want it to be a sacrilegious metaphor here, but it's like bubble gum that keeps its flavor. You can just take one piece and you can chew on that one piece for hours, days, months, or you can keep going and you can just do all bigger pieces and go through. And it's like trying to figure out what's a good pace to go through the book of Proverbs. I mean, you could pick one verse and we could do the entire night on one verse, or we could try to do a chapter a night. I've known people who've done that. I've known people who've tried to do a book of the Bible a night. That's so, but we'll see how far we go. I'll start in verse 15. I'll read down. Well, I don't know if I want to read all the way to the end of the chapter, but we'll just read some here. Uh, Proverbs 14 and this verse 15. The Bible says, "The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge." I'll stop there. We're kind of looking at this as, what are habits of wise people? If you want to be wise, do what the wise people do. If you want to be healthy, do what the healthy people do. And so wise people, they understand that not everything that's out there is right. Not everything that's out there is true. And it says here about the simple versus the wise. Now, there's a lot of places that talks about the foolish versus the wise. The foolish person, the one who said in his heart there is no God, the one who wants to go away from everything that they know is right, and they're choosing to go and depart and then go in the opposite direction. That's the foolish person. They're very conscientious that what they're doing is foolish. In some cases it's absolutely sinful, but in many cases it's foolish. It's like, I know this is, I know the dad said don't hang out with these people. Sunday school teacher said don't hang out with this kind of person. The Bible says don't hang out with this kind of person, but come on, I'm just going to do it anyway. That's the foolish person. The wise person, well, they're the ones who see things and they choose to do what's right. And they're seeking out what would God want us to do, what is the best choice here. But a lot of people aren't in either of those two categories. They're in this category called simple. And sometimes the word simple is a very good connotation. If I can have a simple message, just keep it simple. People can understand it. If we can just, sometimes we overcomplicate things. And it's good to have things simple, but to be a simple-minded person, it means this. And this is, I think, the best definition of simple. The simple believe every word. Hey, I saw it on Google. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And then Jeremy had something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, no, absolutely. That's absolutely right. That's that. Okay. So, Jeremy, gullible. Yeah. Um, if you can get gold into something, you can get tricked into something very easily. If you're, it's not that they're actively seeking to do wrong, but they're not actively seeking to do right. It's like, well, I wasn't trying to do wrong. Yes, but were you trying to do right? And sometimes we are simple respect in the way we talk to people. It's like, well, I wasn't trying to offend you. Yes, but were you trying to not offend? I mean, uh, yeah, and there's a lot of people think that I can just sit in a neutral position on this, on any topic, and I'm safe from making mistakes. If I, I don't know what decision to do, so I won't make a decision, or I will pass it to somebody else. You make a decision for me. Hey, what do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. You want to eat Taco Bell? I don't know. Wait, okay, now some things, what restaurant you go to, I mean, maybe it has effects. But there are other decisions where, should we go to church today? I don't know. What church should we go to? Well, that one's got a shiny steeple. I like the color of that roof. Right. I mean, when people have this idea of, hey, I heard this from some preacher somewhere, or I, so and so said something, and whenever we hear from somebody else, we feel like, hey, this person said it. So if it's wrong, it's not my fault. It's this person's fault. And then I can go back and I can point, hey, that's the person that led me the wrong way. Okay, well, if you're in the wrong way, you're in the wrong way. And if a wise person, it says here, so it says, the simple believe every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. Okay? A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth in the confident. In verse 18, the simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. So a wise man feareth. And I think, some people are, I'm not afraid of anything. Well, there is an amount of fear that we need to have. Okay? First and foremost, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We have to have that fear, that respect. And the people who say, hey, I have no fear, well, they're lying, number one. But number two, it's they're not respecting what is out there. And fear, a healthy fear, is a respect for the dangers that you're facing. And it's healthy to, if you have a little kid and they're standing next to the edge of a tall drop-off and there's no rail, if the kid is a little bit afraid of that, that's a healthy respect for what might happen if I slip right now and I fall down this cliff. Okay? Fear is a part of our body that God put in there that's important, and it can respect dangers, physical dangers, or you can have a fear of what's going to happen to my finances. I was like, well, I don't care. I'll always have money. Okay, you're not respecting your own finances. You're not respecting the work that it takes to get that. You're not afraid. Now, if you respect that, then you're going to look well to your going. You're going to be aware of it and say, hey, if I decide to just jump on board here, what is going to happen here? Is there some danger? Now, can there be unhealthy, foolish level of fear. Or maybe it's a simple level of fear. I could put it that way, where you're so afraid of making decisions, you'll let everyone else. And that's not really fear. I think that's more of either laziness or it's a hardened simplicity where I don't want to make decisions. I'll just be afraid of everything. And so that's the thing. Not making a decision is making a decision, and I think that's a lot to do with simplicity. Will someone make a split second decision of what needs to be done is this? I'm gonna do it. Yes, I am afraid. Now, when you're afraid, but you know that this is the right thing to do, and you do it anyway, that's called courage. The man over here who says, I have no fear of anything. They don't have any courage. You can't have courage without fear. Those aren't opposites. The one is absolutely necessary for the other. It is not courage if you don't have fear. The person knows there's bullets out there. The last person that went out there is shot, and I can see him moaning, but if he stays out there, he's going to get killed, and I need to pull him into shelter. And so the soldier that jumps out there to pull in his wounded comrade, okay, that's a courage. The other person who's simple is like, I'm not going to do anything, there's bullets going everywhere. The foolish person, well, I'm just going to run out of here. Or, I'm going to turn coat and join the enemy, or something like that. There's the foolish person, they want to do that, they're probably not even going to be there. But you have, when situations get life and death, you see character traits where you would never see them before. Looking at history, and a lot of times, those people that their names are down as Medal of Honor winners, they were just the little dweeb that nobody thought was going to ever do anything in the unit, and never really were of any merit or mention until the bullets started flying, explosions started happening, the people that everyone thought were going to be the greatest, are cowering over here, and the little guy runs out there and saves people's lives. And it's like, hey, what was it, trial by fire? And you can actually see their character come out there. But it's this idea of wisdom, foolishness, simplicity. You've got to choose to be wise. If you try to stay in this pot of simplicity, here's the thing. It's like a car that doesn't have a parking gear. You can't put it in park, okay? And you don't have brakes. We all know how it means to not have brakes. And you're on a hill. You've got two directions you can be going. All right. If you just try to stay there, the shift is always going to be downhill. You're never going to I'll just take it easy. I won't make any major decisions this week. Okay, it's going to always shift downhill. That's the direction that simplicity goes. Saw a little clip online this week of a guy out in Washington trying to tow a car, and he had no idea how to tow a car. And it's like a slight incline on the parking lot, and he pulled it across the parking lot, and then it broke free, and it slid back down and hit into the restaurant, and then he pulled it back out again, and it got off again, and he's like towing it with a tow cable without anybody in the car steering it, and yeah. That's just kind of like how it feels with people who they want to sit there, and I'll just be simple. I won't read the instructions on how, because he had a tow bar thing there, but didn't really bother reading the instructions on how you use this thing. My son took my car once, and him and his Yeah. And sometimes we learn, and we could, a wise person will learn from something like that. I wasn't driving the truck. It was my pastor's nephew truck. We were trying to do some work. A big tree had fallen down in the front of the church, and we'd cut off all the limbs and stuff, and thought I got all the roots off of the stump there. We were just trying to pull the stump out, and, we wound up getting a chain and put it around, his hitch, and put it around the stump, and we'll just pull the rest of it out, and going, and all of a sudden, boom, the truck lunges forward. He's like, all right, we got it. I'm like, no, your bumper is sitting on the ground next to the stump. It didn't go anywhere. But yeah, you have to learn, and if we're not actively searching for this decision I have to face, there's a wise way to handle this, there's a not wise way to handle this. There are no casual decisions in life. I just put it that way. There's not things that we can just leave up. And now, do we leave things up to just, whatever happens? Oh, yeah. We do it all the time. Should we? Well, no, we need to walk in wisdom. This is where we learn. We can't just leave things there. A wise person knows there's no neutral. You can't just sit there. And the simple person will often become foolish when they're challenged with this, because they'll get upset. They don't want to be moved from their comfy, simple zone. Look what it says here in verse 16. The fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple will inherit folly. And so when people are sitting either leaning toward foolishness or just sitting here and they're challenged with it, they get upset. They get angry. And if you're angry you're not going to be able to be seeking the wisdom. And I mean, neuroscience can talk about, it's like, okay, there's the part of your brain where you do all of the calculations, your critical thinking, the cerebrum, cerebral complex. When you get angry, when you lose it, that part of your brain, and then they'll do this. So they'll have people sitting in the CT scan and the CAT scan and stuff, looking at their brain, seeing the neurons fire. When they get angry, suddenly that part of the brain stops firing. There's the cerebellum, which is just your instincts, fight, flight, freeze mode. That kicks in, and you're just going off of instincts. All of your critical reasoning skills part is shut off. And if you're shut off, you're going to be dealing foolishly. What you're going to be doing is foolishly. And so a wise person, they're looking at this like, hey, I need to stay calm in this situation, and I need to seek out the wise path. I have a respect for what's going on either way. I've got a courage for, hey, I could get shot if I go out there to pull that person in. But can I live with myself if I don't go out there and pull them? And they've got to make decisions, and that's based off of, their values, everything that they've had their whole life. It's based off of their, hey, I'm behind the cause that we're fighting for. This is important. I care about that person. All of those things, when the rubber hits the road and you've got 1/8 of a second to make that decision, okay, when you have all those values in place, you make the right decision. And what comes by instinct, that's, you see, hey, there's a courageous person. And, being a wise person, it takes courage. Because being simple, that means you don't have fear. But being wise is like, there's some fear if I go this way, there's fear if I go this way. I'm looking at those things, I've got some fear. And it takes a step to say, hey, I'm going to go this way. But the simple people are like, hey, come on, it's comfy over here. Get back in the boat. What are you doing? And it takes courage to be wise. We're in a culture where that's not the norm. It's not popular to be wise. And, you know, I'd say especially for young people, it's not just young people. Every age, you know, if you're not doing what everyone else is doing, it's like, oh, come on, why do you guys have cars that fall apart? Just you know, get a second mortgage on your house and just go, you know, just go super in debt and, you know, just go out and buy a new car. Just get a $60,000 loan and there you go. You know, don't worry about the payments. That you can go and get the deal where there's no payments for 3 months. Come on, you got the car right there. And so there's you're the fear of the neighbors who've got the really nice car laughing at you because it's like, hey, I'm going to try to be wise. I'm not going to go into debt for this. Because then there's the, okay, if I'm going to try to keep this bucket of bolts going much longer, there's some foolishness there too. And it takes some courage to say, hey, it's time to say goodbye. And I need to get it. But then it takes courage to say, hey, I need to get a new vehicle. This is a major commitment. I got to get this, whether I'm going in debt or just I'm taking a huge chunk of my savings and putting it into this, and I really hope it's not a lemon. So it takes courage to be wise. Wise people recognize, though, it's worth it. It's worth whatever cost, sacrifice it is to make those wise decisions. Because it says there, the wise are rewarded. Simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. You learn things when you're trying to find what's right. Let's go on here, verse 19. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Here is just, which is going to be better in the end? Did you choose righteousness? Did you choose wisdom, or did you choose foolishness and wickedness? Okay, the wicked are going to bow for the righteous. Like, well, I've seen places where, there's wicked people in authority and they're ruling and they seem to have everything right. Okay? Well, number one, that's the outside. That's what they want you to see. The inside is probably not nearly so great. But number two, it's not done yet. They're still going to bow down before God. They're going to face the consequences for their actions. Just because we don't see it and it doesn't happen on our timetable. I mean, we're really glad that God is patient and merciful to us. But when we look at these other people, it's like, God, why can't you, how long, Lord, will the wicked prosper? And even David felt a lot like a lot of us. The man after God's own heart still said things, Lord, how long, will they go around here without being punished? And, until he said, hey, then I entered the sanctuary of the Lord and I understood their end. They're going to bow down before the righteous. They're going to pay. They're going to face the consequences. But we can praise the Lord that he is merciful. Because he is merciful on us and he's merciful on them. The evil will bow before the good. Verse 20. The poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich hath many friends. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. These two verses definitely go together here. Why? Why do people hate poor neighbors? But why is it? I mean, he's not saying you shouldn't be or they should be. He's just stating a fact here. The poor is hated of his neighbor. Okay. Okay, they're needy, they're wanting. Okay. Other thoughts? Okay. Run down stuff. If you're thinking maybe of selling your house someday, all right, and the house across the street, okay, versus if somebody rich moved in there, Okay, you're looking directly at, hey, my house value just went up. Okay, there's some houses in my neighborhood that if they burnt down, my home value would go up. Okay, and it's like, well, if that tenant moved out, my home value would go up. So there's this, and I've heard, just talking to neighbors in my whole neighborhood. Someone moved out and someone else moving in, and the neighbor's like, oh, I hope it's not another renter over in that house. Like they want the homeowners because they'll take care of their house better and it'll up your value, and the ones that don't keep their now there's lazy. And sometimes your house is run down because you're lazy, but sometimes it is, hey, I don't own a lawnmower. I can't afford to have someone mow my lawn, and my back is hurt because I got it thrown out in combat 20 years ago. I'm stuck here. Or I don't have a house. All I do is got a tent. Well, move your tent somewhere else. Now, is there... I could go into all the stuff about homelessness. Are there people who are legitimately homeless because they're poor? Yeah. In every country of the world, there's poor. Are there people living on the street because they made choices? Yes. Is it hard to tell the difference between the two groups sometimes? Yes. But the natural nature of man is to despise the poor, to despise your neighbor if they're poor. If they're coming close to you, if you have a nice car, let's say you got that $60,000 loan, and you pulled up in a Cybertruck, totally silent. And then I pulled up in my van next to you, and the brakes sound like a snowplow. And I park it there, and you're like, can you move further away from my car? I don't want that here, okay? There's just that, and the word despise just means to esteem of little worth, okay? It doesn't mean that you hate it and you want to destroy it. It's just you don't value it. You would throw it out. And it says that people will hold their neighbors of little worth. What makes our neighbors of worth? What gives them worth? Okay, being a human. I mean, there's this concept that our current economy has come up called net worth, right? Add up all your money and your assets, subtract all your liabilities. Voila, that's how much you're worth, okay? Does that have anything to do with God's value system? Okay. The poorest person, and even the person who, let's just say it, that they made a whole lot of foolish mistakes, and they have nothing because they've burnt bridge after bridge after bridge after bridge, and they have used people and manipulated people, and they've got nothing, and they've got no one to turn to. Does God still value them? Okay? God valued them. God values us. When we see things through people through God's viewpoint. So look at what. So the poor is hated even as neighbor, but the rich have many friends. Okay, that's also just a statement. Okay, if you pull up with the $60,000 car in front of church, or $100,000 car, my boys didn't believe Victoria that she saw a Ferrari go by her house. Like, no. And then I got home, like, hey, guys, did you see that Ferrari out on Main Street? Like, what? It was really there? Like, yeah. The black one. And Victoria said, yeah, that's what she had said. If someone pulled in a Ferrari to church, okay, what would half of us guys be doing after the service? We'd pass we'd go out there, we'd talk about it. I mean, it's something. Now, this is that natural thing. Now, maybe it's just because it's a cool car. But when someone's wealthy, everybody wants to be their friend. Okay? they're worth something to us. They're of little worth. And we had a church in Illinois we were at. They'd sit in a van every Sunday morning. They'd go under the bridge, and they just, guys there, wherever they saw, they'd go until the van was full. Hey, want to come to church, and then we'll get you lunch. And they would come, and they'd come into church. They'd hear the service, and then they'd just take them. There's a restaurant they went to, actually. I think sometimes they went to Golden Corral and get them really good food. And they just take them to lunch, and then they go bring them back. That was an expense for the church, sure. But what are you doing? We're saying, hey, God values you. Can we bus everybody in all of, that was Peoria, Illinois. Can we bus everyone from that whole area in? No. But some people we can. And are they just taking advantage of the church? Sure. Jesus knew people just took advantage of him. He's like, you didn't come here because I preached, you just came here for the food. And yet what did he do? He still fed them. He still healed them. He still gave them the gospel. And many of them eventually did get saved. And so the natural state is to despise the poor and to be a friend with the rich. But look what it says here. He that despiseth his neighbor. Okay? And it doesn't say poor or rich here, but it says his neighbor. But it says right above it, the poor is hated even of his own neighbor. If you're despising your neighbor, if you are holding your neighbor as little worth, if you're holding, in your opinion, that person who Christ died for as little worth, okay? You're basically saying that his whole sacrifice on the cross wasn't really worth much because you did it for him. You know, it's basically saying, Jesus, you cast your pearls before swine. He's not worth it. Now, Jesus has better perception, better wisdom than us. He thinks it's worth it. And it's not our place to sit here and tell Jesus, I think you were wrong in your estimation of the value of that person. It's our place to get on our knees and say, Jesus, I'm wrong in my estimation of that person because I had that person of little worth. And regardless of what the reason is, it could be wealth, class, race, whatever. If we hold people as lower worth, if we despise our neighbor, if we think for any reason that our neighbor is of little worth, okay, sinneth. Just straight up, it's a sin. And some things in the Bible say, well, does it say that this is a sin if we do this, or is it just, a foolish thing? No, this is a sin. Just period. It's a sin. If for any reason you think the wealth, the value of your neighbor is lower, that's a sin. There's no reason for it. But then he goes on, he says, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. If you can show mercy to those people that the rest of the world despises, you're going to be happy. You're going to have that reward. God sees that you're showing mercy to the people he's showing mercy to, okay? You're gonna get that. Hopefully you're not doing it just to get that reward, but you're gonna have that reward of contentment, of happiness, where another person said, he that pays on poor lendeth to the Lord. I love that verse. We'll get to it eventually in Proverbs, but when you're giving to the poor, you're lending to the Lord. Okay. That's what Solomon calls it. Lending to the Lord. Okay? Is God gonna keep up on his debts? Is he ever gonna foreclose, or is he ever gonna go bankrupt? No. And the depth of his riches of what he gave us, we can give that to others. And wise people are not respecters of people. They don't favor, my notes here say they do not favor the rice. I think that's supposed to say rich. But They don't favor the rich. Just like Christ, they're not respecters of persons. And if we want to have habits of wise people, okay, we need to realize you can't just sit neutral. You've got to either be actively seeking to do what's right, or you're going to be drifting downhill. Hopefully we're never going to be full throttle going downhill, being foolish. But if we're not actively seeking wisdom, we're going to be falling down, okay? If in our relationships with Christ, well, with anybody, okay, a husband and wife, if you're not actively trying to build your relationship, you're going to be pulling further apart. Your relationship with Christ, if you're not actively, you're wanting to draw closer. Now Christ is actively trying to draw you closer to him. But if you're not actively saying, yes, I want to have a better relationship with him, you're pushing him away. And with wisdom, if we're not actively trying to be wise, we're going to be foolish. We'll be sitting in that simple zone, which is going to incline toward foolishness. And if we respect people, we're going to get caught in that trap. We're going to get caught in that sin of despising our neighbor. We need to not do that. You know, and Paul writing to the church in Corinth, talking about how, you know, their Lord's table was a bit messed up. It would be like a potluck where it's not just everyone bring your own meat, it's bring your own food and don't share. And that's the Lord's table. So you have the rich people in church, they're sitting here, they've got tons of food, even to the point of gluttony and drunkenness. And you've got the other people in the church, they have nothing because they're poor. And they're calling that the Lord's table. Paul had problems with that. He said, hey, you've got food at home, eat at home. Lord's table it's the memorial service. That's not it. But there is something I have that it's like, hey, if we're doing a potluck, we're doing a potluck for everybody. It's not like, well, these people can bring their better food and you can't eat it. Like, no, if you're gonna do that at home. We'll eat. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of bring your own meat. I mean, sometimes it works out okay, but I have seen it some places where these people in the church are eating steak and these people are eating hot dogs. Not because they like hot dogs better, but just because they could afford a 99-cent packet of hot dogs and not a $38 steak. And it's like, no, we don't need to be doing that. We're here to support each other. We value each other. You know, when we do value the people that Christ values, he rewards that. And we need to seek that. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you again for all you've done for us. I pray you help us to be wise and not simple and not foolish. And help us to see people as you see them, as valuable enough to send your only begotten Son to die for them. And I pray you help us to think as you do and to hold them up. And I pray that you get the glory for it. I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Yeah.